Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Powered by FC Cincinnati supporters. Get in touch, soccer fans. Email us at cincysoccertalk@spnt.tv. Now, here is your host, Nick Suberling.
Hey, what's happening, Cincinnati Soccer Talkers? Welcome to episode 83 of the podcast. Lots to discuss this week. FC Cincinnati with a huge win in their season finale at home, regular season finale at home. We're still holding out hope that they could get a home playoff game, but nonetheless, hey, they win 4-2 over the Baby Bulls. It feels good to finally beat a New York side. Feels like, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, that might be the first time we've beaten the New York Red Bulls too in our team's history. But it's going to be a fun episode tonight here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We want to hear from you. Get in touch with us on the Kings Hammer hotline, 513-399-KICK. Let us know your thoughts. Anything that you want to share from the weekend, the season finale at Nippert Stadium. I want to hear your thoughts. What did you like about this season as far as at Nippert Stadium? What did you dislike? We'd love your feedback here. That's the question of the night here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. You can also tweet us at Cincy Soccer Talk. And, of course, don't be a stranger. Email us feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Pleased to welcome back the one and only Brian Weigel to the show. Brian, how are you doing, buddy?
Not too shabby. Real excited that we, ended the home schedule in style, and we got a huge game Tuesday versus for the U.S. Women's National Team. So, only great things Cincinnati soccer related here in the upcoming week.
Glad to have you back as always, and of course we've got your twin brother Brad with us as well. Brad,
we just skip him.
Oh,
I just want to say one thing. First of all, the one and only does not count when we are identical twins.
I'm better.
And number two, I was first. I'm the older twin.
Yeah, so. I have another podcast, so yeah, you sit in the back seat.
So since Brad is on the show tonight, it typically means we will have a cuss word at some point. So I'm ready for the beeping. Of course, I'm kidding. Of course, Brad. Glad to have you both back. And then
somebody's got to keep up the slack for Boston.
That is a good point. Boston out of the country right now on vacation, well-deserved vacation for the Brazils. Of course, we're hoping to have him back here real soon. But I'm also glad to have back the one and only.
I was like,
and now I can actually say the one and only Joseph Sagai. He's with us tonight here on the show. Joseph, what's up, buddy?
Not too much, man. Glad to have a nice big win to talk about. Also, I'm on the boat that Boston fled the country to avoid paying up for the final match. That's my theory. Fled the continent, in fact. But who knows? There's always next year, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, if he pulls a Brian, there's always next year.
Wait, how did Boston have to pay up?
I don't know, man. Usually, if you just bring it up, it falls into place. Isn't that what happened with Brian?
We just have to guilt trip them.
Well, glad to have you back, Joseph. Looking forward to getting your thoughts on what happened over the weekend. Of course, I forgot to mention this. We've got a big guest joining us here in about 10 minutes. We'll have Pat Brennan from the Cincinnati Enquirer. He covers the FC Cincinnati side on that beat. I'd love to get his thoughts on the season as a whole and where things stand for FC Cincinnati moving forward. 4 games left. That's all is what remains of the 2017 schedule as it stands right now. FC Cincinnati currently sitting in the 6th spot in the playoff standings, so there is potential. They really kind of have to win out the rest of the way and get some help from others to potentially have a home playoff game, but we're still holding out hope. But one step closer, or one way they got one step closer to potentially hosting a playoff game was to win 4-2 over the weekend against the New York Red Bulls. It started early. Austin Berry with a header in the first half, and then the goals there on out were all, 3 of the top most spectacular goals you'll probably ever see. You happen to just see it in one single match. Delbridge with a screamer, Corbin Bone with a screamer, Kenny Walker with a free kick screamer. Actually all 4 goals were beautiful, spectacular, well, even the corner kick with Austin Berry, it was a well-designed short corner to Berry, just kind of flicked over the keeper's head. But it was you talk about ending the season in style at Nippert Stadium with 3 amazing goals. Let's just talk about that. I'll start with you, Brad. What did you make of what happened on Saturday night?
About damn time we saw this team play to their capability. It was wonderful to see this whole team clicking on all cylinders. But I want to point out the play of Kenny Walker and Corbin Bone. I don't think this team can move forward without the excellent play of those two guys. They were able to clog up the midfield, disrupt the Red Bulls' attack, and then spring the counter. They were really the heart and soul. They were the pulse of this team. And I just can't say enough about those two. Corbin Bone with a clinical finish when that ball came out to the top of the box. And Kenny Walker, he talked about Delbridge and Wiedemann. They were kind of discussing who should take the kick, and he just buried it and capitalized on an excellent chance. So those two, they share my star of the game.
What about you, Josef? I mean, it's hard to pick one star. I mean, they all played well. The 4 goal scorers were fantastic. I was actually surprised to hear during the broadcast, Tommy G mentioned this, that, that was the first USL goal for both Corbin Bone and Kenny Walker. That just seemed crazy to think that, but that's true. They didn't score last year for this team in league play, and no, that can't be right. Kenny Walker scored last year against Orlando. I remember he had a screamer last year. It must have been just this year that Kenny Walker hasn't scored in USL play. Corbin Bone, though, this year, also their first time scoring. Here we are in September, and it's crazy to think that.
Well, they've been linchpins of the offense. So, I mean, it's just because they haven't found the back of the net doesn't say, isn't indicative of their whole performance on the offense. But I think there's something to be said for just letting it rip. I think there's been a little bit of frustration seeing, kind of bouncing the ball back, looking for the perfect shot, and seeing Corbin just take his chance, seeing Delbridge just take his chance. And then, Kenny Walker, which in USL plays, it's not, that kind of free kick is not something you see very often, just a laser to the opposite corner. So that was awesome that we actually got some points some goals on the board and kind of dispelled some of that anxiety that we've had, especially, there's no other team I would have rather stuck it to besides probably Louisville this year than the New York Red Bulls too, after, everything that's happened the last time around when we played them. So it was really exciting, and I'm glad, man, that Delbridge screamer, though, that's when we're going to look back for a while. That might even top Eric Stevenson's from last year.
Do Jibby and Koenig may have to watch their spots if he keeps doing things like that on the pitch.
You heard the name Kyle Beckerman? I mean, shit, well.
Was it
in the midfield, huh?
the Men in Blazers, the 40-yard screamer, right?
There you go. That wins the World Cup, yes.
Yes.
What did you make, Brian? I mean, obviously, the 4 goals were spectacular, but the two goals given up were kind of just shaking your head scratchers. Like, what in the world is going on? I mean, I don't want to be too negative here because it was a really good result, but those 2 goals, you're just kind of like, how?
And I'm willing to get yelled at for this. If you guys want to call on and yell at me, and Pat might yell at me too if he's listening now, but I'm not sure if this was us playing exceptionally well. I mean, yes, we had 4 goals, which is great, but was it more just those individual moments of brilliance, or was it just that we were better than New York? I'm not sure that we were better than New York. Yes, the scoreline shows we won the game, so wonderful. But we have to play that way every match the rest of the year to bring home a USL championship. If we can do that, wonderful. I'm not trying to be a Ken Hetker here and be Debbie Downer predicting losses. I'm just joking. I love you, Ken. He gives a lot of good points on that side, and I agree with his. Was that us being great, or was it, us being a little bit lucky with these individual moments?
Let's talk about that first goal from New York Red Bulls. Tied the game at 1. It was really just a well-designed set piece off of a corner kick, just a low line drive, just kind of roller right to the penalty spot. And Mitch has no chance to stop that shot because of all the traffic in front of him. That's just a really designed set piece. Yeah,
it was real well taken too. I mean, they noticed where we were hunkering back, and they just put that ball up to the top of the box, and that's a tough shot to stop.
I mean, I'm glad the energy didn't drop out, though. I felt like that's a moment that the team doesn't bounce back from a lot of these times. I mean, thankfully, getting out in front was the best start you could have, getting out in front early, because going down against Red Bulls too is not, there's no way you come back from that. But that, and then luckily we had a bit of a cushion, but the second goal they gave up too. There were a lot of moments where we were holding our breath and wiping the sweat from our brow. So I understand your sentiment, Brian, with that, and a lot of the early cards too had me a little bit nervous.
Holy cow!
I mean, those were but those cards. So I guess independently, if I see why they could be yellows, but a lot of one foul cards were given out for their first offense. And then Delbridge had the one where they played advantage, which was probably the clearest yellow of the night in my mind, and you didn't get a card for it. So like maybe the makeup call came a little late, but that had me worried that throughout the whole game that we had to play a little light because of early discipline in the match.
Raise your hand. I was going to say, raise your hand if once GB got the card, I think it was in the 12th minute, you thought he was going to get sent off. I was the first guy to say he's going to get sent off.
Real quick, no, I don't know if you guys listened to Coach Koch's post game conference, but he said he made the change in the 54th, 55th minute because he honestly believed that ref wanted to see Jibby gone, and so he had to make that change early just because. I mean, is this? I mean, how many games has this been that we feel like Jibby's just getting prosecuted by the ref for trying, they're trying to send him off. It's just a little bit too much here. I don't know if it's the ref situation or if it's the player situation.
You can follow that one up. I mean, that's pretty loaded there. I would say that he puts himself into situations, and of course, you've seen this guy all year. He's got a bad rep, and some refs are just going to put their foot down right away. If they see something that toes the line with him, they're just going to pull that trigger. So, I mean, it is what it is there. I mean, I wouldn't say they're going after the guy, but yeah, I mean, if they're trying to set the tone, that's the perfect guy to go after. I mean, this guy who has the reputation, so I don't blame him, but I don't like it.
The thing is, though, what the hell's he done? I mean, it's not like he's taken tremendous cheap shots at some of these players. He's just playing physical deep. He's just playing physical on offense. Some of these center backs tackle Koenig when he's on there and nothing happens, and then Jibby bumps the center back and he gets a card. This is bullcrap. These guys need to protect Jibby, and they're going after him.
I mean, kissing a guy from Louisville shouldn't get a card. So,
yeah, well, we're not discussing that, but it's getting a little overboard. I mean, it's like these guys are seriously targeting him game after game.
I think there's something to be said for Kenny Walker in that match, though, too. I mean, the leadership. I know he was pretty fiery on the field, and the leadership I thought he showed was incredible. And considering the circumstances, I know, it's not exactly ideal to feel like it's kind of the us against the world mentality when having the officials calling discipline like that. But I think it showed why another reason. Like Sands' actual field performance wise, really important to the team.
Well, I'll be completely honest. I was very surprised that GB was not sent off. I'm actually very surprised nobody from FC Cincinnati was sent off with all the cards that were flying around and some of the tackles that were flying around in that game. Thankfully, it didn't happen. And more importantly is FC Cincinnati gets the 3 points that they absolutely need to help improve their playoff chances. Well, joining us now on the King's Hammer hotline, you know him and you recognize him from the Cincinnati Enquirer. He's the beat writer covering FC Cincinnati. He's Pat Brennan, and he's making his triumphant return to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We welcome him now on the King's Hammer hotline. Pat, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing fantastic. Were you surprised GB didn't get sent off?
Yeah. I'm glad you guys include me in this particular topic because I had some thoughts on it. I thought GB was in one of his moods last night, and what I mean when I say that is that he is by his nature an antagonistic player. It's what makes him great, and it's what also has seen him. Louisville City situation kind of set that one off to the side as just a very weird circumstance. But it's the reason he's accumulated so many cards throughout the season and been sent off at times. So my take on the situation was that I think the referee did very obviously give GB several warnings. He persisted in, following through on his tackles, being overly physical after the ball and the play had kind of moved on from wherever he was on the field. And maybe the New York guys were going after him physically. Maybe I didn't pick up on that enough. Maybe they were doing a little bit of talking. As you guys correctly point out, people do target GB just to see if he'll snap and do something worthy of a red. But I thought GB was. I wasn't surprised when the yellow came, and I thought ultimately it was. You don't want to see a substitution. You don't want to see him go off in the 10 minutes into the second half. But the way the match played out, it ends up working out perfectly. Because I agree with you, Subs. I thought GB was a goner if he stayed in that game for another 15 minutes.
Well, let's give a little credit to Coach Koch here by bringing in Kyle Gregg or even Danny Koenig earlier in the year. You're noticing that this player can get into these situations, and having that third striker that really doesn't drop off too much is something great to have in terms for FC Cincinnati. But kind of going back to you, Pat, we'll start off some cupcake questions here before we get into the down and dirty.
Yeah, sure.
You've been on the show before. I'm sure you've talked to a lot of our listeners, but for people who are just tuning in for the first time, can you give our listeners an idea how you first got started covering FC Cincinnati, or really how the Enquirer got started covering the club?
Yeah. So, it was a little bit fortuitous. I think I was a breaking news reporter at the Cincinnati Enquirer when FC Cincinnati was announced in August of 2015. And I remained a breaking news reporter for more than a year after that. So all the way through the club's first season, I was kind of pulling a little bit of double duty doing my 5 a.m. breaking news shift. And then I would spend my free time and a little overtime on the side, just a little bit of overtime on the side, going to matches, getting out to training. So it was something. I'm a soccer guy. I played in college for a couple seasons before I realized I was a terrible player, and then I transferred to Ohio State where I majored in college football. And
boom.
Boom. But from the Enquirer standpoint, I would say, it would have been naive to look at all the players involved. And when I say players, I just mean all the characters, kind of, Carl Lindner III and Jeff Birding and John Harks on the soccer side of it. You would have been kind of naive to look at that situation and think, this is nothing. This is just going to be another minor league soccer flop. I think it was pretty obvious it wasn't going to be that early.
Sure.
So the Enquirer was always kind of going to be involved covering, maybe early, and then maybe when attendance and the momentum tailed off, maybe we would tail off with the coverage. But it just started picking up steam, as everyone knows, and it became this monster of a beat. And we never had a chance to let off the gas because FC Cincinnati never let off the gas. God, here we are today, a couple months out from finding out the fate of whether or not this club gets into MLS. So it's been an awesome couple seasons covering the team. I was bummed to see the home schedule end yesterday, but they're gonna keep us busy in the off season, aren't they? So.
Hopefully they'll keep us busy in the postseason.
Yeah, sure. Well, the offseason. Yeah, I fully expect they're going to get to the playoffs at this point. I didn't mean to make it sound like that.
No. We're not attacking you, dude. You're good.
Yeah. All right.
Pat, you kind of, brought it up that this is winding down, at least the home experience for what we think will be these first 2 years in the club's history. As someone pretty close to the team, what's been your favorite moment to see go through as an FC Cincinnati fan and reporter.
Right. So, I mean, when you go to school to be a journalist, and sports was always my thing. I was never into the, traffic and shootings and bank robberies, which is what I did at the Enquirer until I became full-time sports about a year ago. I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary as full-time sports reporter at the Enquirer. And when you go to school to do that stuff, you have goals in mind, like I want to cover an NFL beat, or I want to do the NHL or the Reds or something like that. And just, because I grew up playing soccer, I played it. I would say I had a soccer hobby my first couple of years in college before I transferred to Ohio State. I always wanted to do MLS. That was always what was of interest to me. Around the time I was starting college, the Philadelphia Union, I'm from Philadelphia originally, the Philadelphia Union were just coming online in Major League Soccer. So it was an exciting time for me as a soccer fan. It's been an exciting life for me as a soccer fan. But so I always kind of wanted to cover an MLS team. And honestly, the whole season, I mean, I said this during one of the Enquirer podcasts last year, I think before the night before the Crystal Palace match. I mean, this is a major league team that, you guys dedicate this show to and that I dedicate a significant portion of my job to. This is a major league team. They don't have that MLS designation yet, but it's pretty incredible to be around this thing and to have watched it rise from the ground up. And I would have to say that the games against the MLS teams were probably the most rewarding for me on a personal level. Just seeing some of those sources from MLS and some of those people I knew from Columbus at the Crew come to Nippert, and to have our, here's the team I cover, and here's, the team that I never knew if I would cover. And there was just this confluence of events and friends and people at Nippert for those amazing Open Cup games against Columbus, Chicago, and New York. So those were definitely the most personally rewarding for me, regardless of the outcomes. Those were nights I remember for a long time.
Now, Pat, following your coverage, I think you do a great job covering for the Enquirer. And one of the things I've noticed is of late, with some of our poor performances over the last month or two in league play, you still taken an upbeat stance, especially regarding Alan Koch. And, so how do you feel he's done? And, have the fans, you think, given him enough credit and enough trust, especially towards this postseason pushing into the postseason itself?
Right. That's a great question. It's a loaded question too, isn't it? Yeah, I guess something I did early in this 2017 league season, which, for yourselves and myself and other people that cover the team, pretty much starts when the team goes down to Florida for preseason, right? So by that point, John Hark's already been fired, and I think that was such a traumatic moment for this club. For me, all the expectations went out the window at that point, and it was just a blank slate. Like, I didn't know what to expect. And maybe I was able to set a baseline through watching preseason, and I got out to Nippert for that. They play Dayton every year at Nippert before the regular season gets underway, or kind of early in the regular season. So that kind of helped me set my baseline expectations for this year. But, Alan, I think, has done a fantastic job, period. Then you add in the fact, I'll back that up with some, I'll substantiate that a little bit. The Open Cup run was an incredible achievement. U.S. soccer hasn't seen anything like that for years, and who knows when we'll see it again as, MLS continues to fortify itself and the teams get better, the competition gets better, the player pools get deeper and stronger, and you see MLS pulling more and more from the international ranks. Who knows when a USL club even one as big as FC Cincinnati will accomplish what they did in the Open Cup run. And then I think the way he went about balancing that Cup run with the league season has been commendable. And I think, I can't. I mean, it's impossible to overstate the challenge that Allen inherited, which was these aren't his players. He does play. I mean, there's the only common thread between him and John Harkes, coaching-wise, was kind of this organizational philosophy that Jeff Birding kind of maintained, which was, we want to play attacking, attractive soccer that would be fun for fans to watch. Okay, well, how do you do that? John and Allen go about doing that in very different ways. And, both of them had different players to fit that style. So I think that Allen inherited a group that he played little to no role in assembling. I mean, that the players he had to work with, they simply weren't his. And to be fair to the players, they didn't sign on to play for Alan Koch. Most of them were contracted through or offered contracts under the assumption that they'd be playing for John Harkes and in a certain way. So, when these guys bought in to FC Cincinnati, a lot of them were buying into John Harkes and his culture and his playing style. Alan Koch comes in and throws all of that out the window. I promise you that. Austin Berry told me on the record that, whereas John is kind of more of a, he's a friend and someone who the players were all cool with. This really isn't even about John. Alan Koch is someone that, when he walks into the dressing room, you kind of suck in your gut a little bit. He's perfectly friendly guy, but on the professional side, I think Alan is a little bit sharper than John. I certainly think he's more of a tacticianer than John, and you throw in all these things, and I wrote about this last week. I appreciate you kind of put this one right in my wheelhouse, Brian. But I just think that this was a really adverse situation, and Allen's done pretty well with it. And now, after yesterday, I think you have to say the playoff push looks like it's in a good spot. That's going to change and potentially pinball around our outlook on the playoff push week to week. But right now, it looks pretty darn good. And I'm not saying that Alan Koch is Alex Ferguson. He's going to be, he's going to have to come in, and after he's put his stamp on this team in the off season, this is his club next year. There are no excuses next year for Alan Koch. So you rate him on a very different scale, and we'll learn more about that. But I've been impressed with Alan from the first time I talked to him when he got here in January, and I don't know if people have given him the leeway that maybe he deserved, but ultimately I think he's got this thing moving in the right direction. So, and Alan knows full well that he's everyone's best friend. He's the hero after a night like last night, and he'll be the GOAT if they drop a game next weekend. So I think he's got this thing moving in the right direction, and I think there's a lot to be hopeful for with Allen at the helm of this team.
Sure. I was going to ask you your thoughts of, you kind of said it, for next season, it's do or die. And, because of course
Right.
He had some player moves throughout this year, of course, the Hoyts and the Schindlers and all that stuff. Now let's kind of get to the Enquirer here real quick. We all know that there's going to be a lot of news coming about MLS here in the next month and a half, 2 months. How has you, Jason Williams, some of the other staff, how do you guys balance some of this breaking news that you want to report versus what may be in the best interest of the club? I know, some reporting that you've had on the stadiums, for example.
Yeah, well, it's important. It's a good question, kind of about the fundamentals of journalism. Strictly speaking, we are. I'm not paid to be a supporter of the club. I'm paid to, tell the truth and talk about the things that I witness, that I bear witness to when I'm around the club. So, there are, and to the end, insofar as the Enquirer is trying to project the truth about FC Cincinnati, whether it's on the field or whether it's at the bargaining table, trying to get into MLS. I mean, our interest is in serving our readership and the people of Cincinnati, and especially when it comes to something that could potentially be a public works project like building a stadium. That's who we serve. So I don't really think of it as, this is kind of assuming that anything we write would be, possibly detrimental to the club. I don't really think about it in those terms. It's kind of an accountability thing. And really, I think this is specifically with regard to the stadium, that especially, when there's public money involved, it's not just, I have to, as much as I appreciate the people in the Bailey and the season ticket holders and, the massive support base, there are there are tens of thousands of more people that have a stake in a publicly funded FC Cincinnati stadium than just those that come to the match. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely. I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I have to think about those people too. And, like you said, I've definitely been supportive of Alan Koch, but on the flip side of that, you don't want to. Being a homer can also be a very dangerous thing for one's credibility. So it's a balance. I think everyone at the Enquirer agrees, and we reflected this in some of our editorials. FC Cincinnati has been a wonderful, wonderful thing for this community. I think everyone at the Enquirer wants to see FC Cincinnati reach the next level. And, between me, whether it's myself, Jason Williams, Sherry Coolidge, and some of our other county and city hall reporters, we're just going to be kind of standing guard and making sure that everyone goes about helping FC Cincinnati get to that place above board and in the right way. I think that's all it is.
Yeah, good answer.
Not to hate on anybody else, Pat, but I definitely do appreciate you better than some other local groups out there, maybe Channel 9 or something with their misleading tweets, just to call them out there. And to be fair, but we appreciate what you do.
Man. Hey, no, hey, while we're having this Love Fest, I think what you guys do is absolutely awesome. I'm actually wearing my Cincinnati Soccer Talk hoodie, which you guys just finally presented me with.
Pat, if I'd have known that, we would have got you on camera tonight.
Oh no, that wasn't going to happen regardless, but not at 9 p.m. on a Sunday. I'm doing laundry over here, man. I can't be doing my pajamas, You know what it is.
Oh, hey, yeah. Dude, we'll still take your pajamas better than Sub's painting up.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, come on. Yeah, I think that's great. See, I'm jealous. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of you, Subs.
Really?
That you had. There was a two-stick of your face in the Bailey all season. That's awesome. That's incredibly baller, man.
I have no response to that. Even when I told my wife about the two-pole, she was like, "What's a two-pole?" And I had to explain it, and she didn't even believe that was my face. And then I had to show her the text message chain that that was me. So
right.
I'll get you out of here on this question because I know you're a big fan of the guys over at Men in Blazers. How pumped were you to see Mr. Bennett wearing an FC Cincinnati jersey on Men in Blazers this past week?
Oh my God. It was surreal. I'll tell you oh man. I actually got an anonymous shout out from Roger Bennett one time. I flew in to, you guys will remember this. I covered the MLS All-Star game in San Jose two years ago. And I landed at the San Jose airport. And the first thing you do when you're out on the West Coast, or for me anyway, is you go to In-N-Out Burger. Yes. And I go in there, it's like 4 a.m. Eastern time where I've come from. Well, coming from Cincinnati, it's 2 a.m. out there. It looks like, a fast food place that you'd see at like 2 a.m. on a college campus, just like a tornado swept through there. And who do I see? Well, I'm wearing a Wigan Athletic jacket. People who know me know that Wigan Athletic is my team, my club team that I support down in the 3rd division in England. So anyway, Roger Bennett picks out the badge on my jacket, and he comes over and he sits and raps with me for like 15 minutes. So he told me back then that FC Cincinnati was on his radar. He loved what was happening there. And, those guys are just so cool. I've run into them a couple of times, MLS All-Star games and stuff. And it's been my pleasure to interact with them. So there still was always, I think you guys you'll get this. Like, there's this surreal moment when FC Cincinnati interacts with, personalities like Raj and Devo, or when they're on the field with an MLS side. Because for us, having watched this thing from the beginning, that was always what you aspired to, but you just, having never been on that level before, you didn't know what it would look like when you saw it. So sometimes you do a double take. And when I saw the picture of in the tweet of Raj wearing the famous white kit, as I like to call it, because they win all their trophies in that white kit, FC Cincinnati does. Man, that was just a surreal moment, just a collision of, the different worlds that I populate, my professional life and my personal adoration and my professional adoration for those guys. It was just like, it was just one of those like surreal moments that I think everyone involved with FC Cincinnati, including yourselves and myself, that we've experienced, so many times now throughout this whole, the whirlwind existence that has been FC Cincinnati. So it was great. It was a great thing, Soups.
Well, we appreciate you spending a few minutes with us here on Cincinnati Stock Talk. Of course, you're always welcome back. I'm sorry we didn't get you on until September this year, Pat, but we'll have to get you on a little bit earlier next season. If folks want to check you out.
Hey, maybe they go on a run. Hey, maybe they go on a run into November,
Maybe. That's a good point. We might have to have you back. Yeah,
we'll
absolutely. If folks want to check out your stuff,
pleasure,
where
guys.
can they find you at, buddy?
Twitter's a great place. I'm at P Brennan, ENQ, last name spelled BRENNAN, and Cincinnati.com. Stuff's really easy to find. Just click on the sports tab, and FC Cincinnati will be on the left-hand sidebar. Just click on that, and you'll have access to all our good stuff.
Keep up the good work, Pat. We'll catch up with you again real soon.
Guys, thank you so much. Great job.
That's Pat Brennan joining us here on the King's Hammer Hotline. Check him out over at the Cincinnati Enquirer. He does a great job covering the team. He's top notch, and the fact that FC Cincinnati has a dedicated beat reporter for soccer. They don't have a dedicated beat reporter, I don't think, for the Cyclones, do they?
It's a whole nother level there, man.
But I'm saying it's the same. It's minor league hockey. You can make an argument it's minor league soccer. I'm just saying they don't have a beat writer for the Cyclones, right?
I'm using all my restraint in the world not to make a Nick Brunker crack right now. So.
Oh, but he's not an Enquirer guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He's an anti-FC Cincinnati guy.
Yes, that is true. But again, we really appreciate Pat joining us here on the podcast this week. Pat does a great job over at the Enquirer. So we've got phone lines open, 513-399-KICK. Our own Ken Hetker's waiting, standing by patiently to take your call, 513-399-KICK. One of the things that we didn't talk about before we joined Pat was the injury to Austin Berry. And joining us now on the King's Hammer Hotline is Yersky, who wants to talk about that. Yersky, what's up, buddy?
What's up, fellas? So I just want to talk about Austin Berry, and actually I wasn't talking specifically the injury, but I think him in the lineup versus him out of the lineup, I think this team is a lot more attack-minded, and that might not seem like it sounds like it makes a lot of sense at first, but this team builds from the back so much that when Austin Berry is in, I think they're a little bit more attack-minded. Would you guys agree with that statement, or would you? And I'll let you guys take that as you will.
Well, personally, I think a lot of that more so goes through Delbridge, and now so a little bit of DeVitt, because I think his touch and his passing are pretty stout. So I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that just because he gives them a little bit cover. Maybe the midfield can venture a little bit more. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I mean, I don't know. Delbridge kind of ventured forward and was a little attack-minded himself over the weekend.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
He's done it a bunch lately, honestly.
That's true. And you're right. I mean, Austin Berry from the center back position, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure he's got more, or if it might be close. I think Delbridge has, 2 goals for FC Cincinnati, maybe potentially 3 all-time. Berry's got at least 4 or 5 now. He is certainly definitely more attack-minded. I agree with that statement.
Let's see.
Would you
Austin.
guys, given your you have to play somebody, who are your 2 picks for that center back position? Are you taking DeVitt? Are you taking Hoyt even? Or who are you guys, who would be each first?
Well,
So if they're playing a back 4, or are they playing a back 3?
Let's say they're playing a back 4. Who are your 2 choices for center back?
I'm taking Berry and Delbridge. What about you guys?
Has to be the same. I
Barry
mean,
and Delbridge.
yeah, I agree
Easily.
completely. I mean, the experience and the familiarity those two have with each other, I think that gives a calm to the entire squad. They have the faith in those guys, the familiarity with those guys, that they're going to be able to disrupt anything that gets back to them.
Man, you guys are just being disrespectful to Garrett Halfell right now. I'll tell you what. No.
It's so bad.
No, in all seriousness, though, there's been 4 goals scored by Delbridge, 5 goals scored by Berry in all competitions over their career in FC Cincinnati. I mean, these are 2 guys that are quality players. Yeah, there might be some differences, some motivational things that they got to get through. You've seen Austin Berry on the bench prior to this match, so I'm not sure exactly what's there. I don't want to infer too much. But yeah, if it's a USL playoff match and Coach Koch decides to go the 4-4-2, I would pray every day that those 2 guys are the 2 center backs in the back 4.
And let me make something. If I have to choose center backs, I'm choosing the 2 best center backs that I have confidence in that are going to be the best on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, Sem DeVitt may be better, on the ball, passing, distributing the ball, but that's not the first job of center backs. It's to disrupt the attacking, the attack that's coming towards them. And I think that Austin Berry and especially Harrison Delbridge, with the way that they're able to disrupt last-second chances,
Emergency defending.
Yeah, exactly. Emergency defending, especially if you only play 2 central midfielders, those 2 have to be on the pitch. Like I said, I respect Sem DeVitt. I understand what he does on the ball and his distribution, but that's not their primary job. Whenever do you look at a center back and say, "Oh, I'm choosing him because he can dribble the ball"? That's not their job.
I mean, something that you said, Brad, that I wanted to point out too, the chemistry between them. I think that doesn't get put into people's minds enough that with 3 center backs out there, the only 2 that I've had consistent playing time with each other are Berry and Delbridge. And then there's kind of been a carousel trying to get that 3rd spot. Sims obviously pretty much got it now, sans like the red he got in Louisville that made him sit out. But those 2 have finally played together for 2 years. I mean, who else would you want?
Did I answer your question, Yursky?
More than answered it. Thanks, guys. Have a fantastic week.
Thanks for calling, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right.
That's Yursky giving us a ring. We've got lines open 513-399-KICK. I think the bigger question is, if they do go with a back 4, who's your left back? Because obviously there was some folks over the weekend unhappy that a certain left back not even on the 18. Tyler Pollock not in the 18. You got Josu who can play left back. You got Hoyt who can play left back. I'm fairly certain that you could put in ink that the right back in that back 4 would be Matt Boehner. The question becomes, who gets the start over on the left side?
To be fair, Pollock was hurt, so from Tuesday. And you've seen Josu not go back-to-back games all year. I don't know of a time where I've seen him go back-to-back on short rest notice. But yeah, we can rotate there. I think honestly, if Josu's healthy enough, I think you probably would put him there, but it's all subjective.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people were saying online that Pollock was not in fact injured last night, but he only made it 17 minutes Tuesday night. So I just think, 13 minutes. Okay, I think that's a tough decision to roll him out there. Like I said, especially for that short performance, and I think he's played well this year, but I still think with his pace and his defensive ability, I think you do have to run out Josu. Oh, but I'll tell you what though, I do like Hoyt on the left side. I think he does really well with his timing, getting up the flank and crossing in dangerous chances. I think every time we've seen him on the left, he's done well. So if we have a back three of DeVitt, Delbridge, and Barry, if they're all healthy, I still think you might have to think about throwing Hoyt out there.
That's one of the things I think Koch likes too about Hoyt is his versatility. I mean, he could put him at center back in the pinch if you need to. You could put him on either side. You could put him at left mid or right mid. I mean, he has shown the ability to get up the field, which is good. But as a left back, your job primarily is to defend. And he's been he's been pretty solid back there. You can't argue that. So we'd love to hear from you, though. 513-39-KICK. Get in touch with us on the Kings Hammer hotline. Let us know what you want to talk about. All things FC Cincinnati. Let's go back to the Kings Hammer hotline. Let's welcome in a friend of the show. If my computer decides to work, there we go. Mr. Chris Weimer. Chris, what's up, buddy?
Not much. I just want to talk about Saturday coming up with St. Louis.
What's up?
Are you?
Ethan are making a. I'm sorry, I'm at Buckethead.
Shocker.
Are you a Buckethead?
Shocker, Weimer.
I'm at Buckethead. I'm outside now. You can hear me.
What's going on with this trip?
And me and Ethan are going. We went last year, and we kind of scouted a little bit. The Fenton Bar and Grill, if everybody wants to meet up over there, it's a walking distance from the field, about a quarter of a mile. But if we want to everybody want to meet up at Fenton Bar and Grill on Saturday. I think me and Ethan will be in town about 5-ish. But anybody else that's going, I know Tim and Tina Harris are going, and a couple other people have said they're going. So, but if you guys want to meet up there, let us know. I got the Facebook page now for Traveling Baileys out there, that if anybody wants to know updated information or link for tickets, let me know, and it's on there. But
so you're making the trip to St. Louis. When are you leaving? You leaving Saturday morning?
We're leaving. Ethan's got a game at 8 o'clock. We're leaving at 9 a.m. If anybody wants to drive, I still got an extra bed and room in the back if anybody wants to go.
Fantastic.
Will you be big spin or small spin?
Oh, my God. All right. Weimer, thanks for calling, buddy. Have fun at Bucketheads, all right?
Yeah, I will. I'll see you. Bye.
Jeez, Brian.
Only.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
So we're here to talk about FC Cincinnati. But you know what? There is an important game at Nippert Stadium coming up this week, Tuesday night, and that is the U.S. Women's National Team taking on New Zealand. And Olivia now joining us now on the Kings Hammer hotline wants to talk about that game. Olivia, welcome back.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
I'm good. Before I talk about Tuesday, I do want to give a shout-out to Corbin Bone for playing that game because his wife came home from the hospital the night before, so I don't think he got any sleep. So I don't know how he did that, but it was amazing.
Well, if he scores goals like that, maybe he should sleep less.
Apparently.
So what's on your mind tonight, Olivia?
I'm really, really excited for Tuesday night. I was actually walking to CCM for a meeting tonight and walked past two of the New Zealand players and kind of did the biggest double take I've ever done in my life and had a heart attack there for a second. Did you guys ever expect to see this in Cincinnati? It's crazy to think, I love the national team, the women's and the men's, and have wanted to see a game played for so long, and have never been able to get to one. So I finally get to see them play, and there's a chance that I'll just run into them on campus the next 2 days, which is really overwhelming for me, but also super exciting. Did you guys ever expect this?
I didn't expect it this soon. With the fact that FC Cincinnati is just really in year two. it's not the first time that the women's national team has played here in Cincinnati. I mean, they did it a couple years ago. I want to say it was like 6 or 7 years ago, Bri, that the U.S. women's national team was here in town.
Yeah, something like that.
So I'm just surprised at how soon U.S. Soccer has said, "Oh, maybe we should check out this Cincinnati thing." I also think it helps that Rose Lavelle is a Cincinnatian on that team, and she's probably got the ear of some folks there at U.S. Soccer. Of course, I'm sure every one of those girls wants to play in front of their home crowd, but it's a big story, and we even saw it this week on Sirius XM. People chiming in, wanting to know what the biggest story in soccer was this year, and FC Cincinnati won overwhelmingly. Now, I take that with a grain of salt because we Cincinnatians tend to stuff the ballot boxes. It's not just soccer. It used to happen with MLB All-Star games and whatnot. So that's just what we do here in the Queen City. I'm not surprised. I guess I'm just surprised at how soon it happened in relation to the start of FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, Subes, I definitely agree there. I mean, I remember 6, 7, 8,000 people just on Fountain Square for the last World Cup match. The last World Cup match, I want to say, at least the one against Portugal. That was packed down there. So there's definitely an appetite for it. It's just it took that right scenario to tap into that fan base, and just when Birding and Leonard did, it just exploded.
Olivia, are you sitting in the Bailey on Tuesday night?
I am.
All right, well, I'm looking forward to hearing. I want to hear you during the game. Okay, I just want to hear you, nobody else, just you. Sound good?
Okay. Before I leave, I have one thing that I want to mention. I don't want to plug, but I want to plug this. So I am the public relations manager for UC's Love Your Melon crew. And next Monday, we are partnering with Be the Match and doing a bone marrow donor drive. And a few FC Cincinnati players are going to be there, and I'm really excited about it. So you guys should check it out.
So where can we find more information for it?
You can check out our Instagram, which I'm stupid and don't remember right now, even though I run it. We just changed it. It's at Cincy with a Y, LYM crew.
LYM crew. Okay, all right.
I'm really excited. So yeah.
All right, I'll make sure I put that link in the show notes as well. What date is that again?
It is next Monday, the 25th, from 3:30 to 5:30 in TUC at UC.
Well, best of luck with that, Olivia. Let us know what we can do to help, all right?
Thanks.
That's Olivia giving us a ring here on the King's Hammer hotline. Good to hear from her, as we do from time to time. All right, so the Barry injury. Are you guys concerned?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just glad Yosef said something there. I forgot he was on the show. Yosef, how you been?
No, well, that's with 3 center backs. I don't think Koch will change his system for it. I mean, I think there's the flexibility with Hoyt that was brought up is going to be helpful. But I mean, it finally, we're not. Something that's been noticed is we haven't had a clean sheet in quite a while, and that's with what I consider to be our top 3 starting center backs playing. It's hopefully it's not a long spell, because this would be the absolute worst time for him to miss some time for us.
I mean, he's your best center, in my opinion, one of the best center backs. Definitely, at least on this team. And he's huge. He does a great job, and his aptitude for the game is massive. And you have to put him on the pitch. And if we have to subtract him, and you saw what happened when we put Paul Nicholson on the pitch after 45 minutes. He almost gave away a goal himself. It was almost a huge just tragedy, and we need him on the pitch. And I hope he's bad. I hope he gets back soon.
All right,
it was tragedy. He was horrible.
Okay, real quick, Twin.
Anybody who says Paul Nicholson needs to be on the pitch is just I can't get on with it. I just can't get along with it.
All right. Well, Brian here. So come at me with this. I think that Barry is important for this year, but I think, and you'll see this other people out there, I think there's several people on the roster that can be maybe improved upon or moved on from in time. I think this is a guy who could be a target for that sad thing. I mean, I love him to death. I think he's a good guy. He's been a part of our show. We've seen him interact with the community, but at some point, transitioning, we had a great story this week on our website that, so it's possible that we could move on from him, but I think for this time this year we need him.
Yosef brought up the clean sheets. The last clean sheet this team had was the 1-0 win over Miami in the U.S. Open Cup. And in fact, the last league clean sheet they had was against Harrisburg City Islanders back when I painted up. So maybe that's the bad omen. Maybe that was what caused the downfall. I used up all our good luck there. But it would be nice to have a Widmer's clean sheet coming up. Wouldn't it be nice if they went on a little run here to end the year? They got St. Louis, Charlotte, Ottawa, and Toronto. I would say those are all 3 matches where clean sheets could occur. Could. I said could. Charlotte, obviously, we know they're doing well this year in the Eastern Conference, but they've already gotten a clean sheet against St. Louis this year. Probably could keep a clean sheet against Ottawa and Toronto, but we shall see. I think one of the things we've noticed too with Delbridge and DeVitt, when those two are playing center back, there's just something different, something off. And I don't know if it's because they haven't played enough together or what, but I just feel like there's something off, especially on balls into the box, whether it's on corner kicks or crosses. It's like they're both going for the same ball and then somebody gets unmarked somehow. And I don't know if that's just because those two aren't really familiar with playing with one another or just dumb luck. But hopefully Barry's not out too long and those two can form a little bit of a partnership there. We did get this question on YouTube, and it's very similar to what we had earlier. If you had to pick one to keep for next year, Hildebrandt or Delbridge?
Barry or Delbridge?
Hildebrandt or Delbridge? Hildebrandt or Delbridge was the question. If you had to pick one to keep for next year, who would you keep?
Pretty sure Hildebrandt is under contract for next year. Could be wrong there. I think I'd keep Hildebrandt. I just think that he's a good player in the back there. He's a good organizer, and I just think that I'm not sure that Harrison will stay. That's my only thing.
That's tough, man. I might keep Delbridge, honestly. I don't know. That's who's to say Delbridge is going to be here, though. Like you said, I don't. But you're right. You can see watching, especially that's one of the benefits I kind of see because the Bailey has an obstructed view. But when you watch, you're watching from behind Mitch, you kind of see him orchestrate the field in front of him, which is really interesting from somebody who's never played keeper. You see how, especially with a 5-man back line and those 3 center backs having to mesh when they don't always do, Mitch kind of coaching them as it goes along. It's more than just stopping shots. He's a huge cog to the defense.
I'm going with Harry because if he left, he would crush every little girl's under the age of 14's dreams.
What does that mean?
I don't know where this show has gone. It must be a late Sunday night, past our bedtimes, clearly.
I hope our listeners can differentiate between Brad and Brian. Brad's the idiot. Love him to death.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to make that choice. I'm glad that you guys did, though. But we want to hear from you. Let us know on Twitter at Cincy Soccer Talk. You can also email us feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Is it already that time for Growler Cup? Man, this show has flown by tonight. The Growler Cup, obviously, we know what's happening there. Brian continues to lead, yada, yada, yada. So we'll quickly move on. Yosef, I'll start with you. We're away to St. Louis this weekend. What do you got as far as the Growler Cup prediction goes?
Well, as much as I picked a draw last week for the first time in forever, and they won. St. Louis has had, actually Ken spurred me to listen to some of their local podcasts, and they kind of have a similar attitude of defeat that once was carried on an FCC fans' mentalities, but they've been struggling, and they were in a great spot at one point, and now they're pretty much out of the playoffs. I think they go, and I think they get a win, even though like what 3/4 of our points have come at home. I still think I think FC Cincinnati can come away with I'll go 2-0 victory.
All right, Yosef's going for a 2-0. I'll start with you, Brad. Between the two Weigel twins here, give me your Growler Cup prediction for St. Louis.
I don't think you can keep a team shut out over the span of 3 games on the year, and especially with the way I think St. Louis, they had a good win this weekend. I'm going with a 2-2 draw.
All right, Brad's going for a draw. I'm going to let Brian go last. I'm going to say, and I picked FC Cincinnati to lose over the weekend to New York Red Bulls, so I'll take full credit for the 3 points because they seem to do the opposite of what I pick. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. So Brad's going for a 2-2. I'm going for a 1-1. How about you, Bri?
We can't do opposite of draw, can you?
That's a good
well,
point.
I'll tell you what. You guys can listen to March to Match Day this week to find mine out.
Segue.
How about,
what's
how
going on
about
with March
that?
to Match Day? Fill us in.
Yeah, Phil Grooms of STL Soccer Report, Eastern Conference Confidential. Guys, I'm not really getting much advantage. We're recording Monday night, so hopefully we can find a little bit more about Barry. Honestly, though, I think this match, I want to pick. My head says pick a draw, but I'm thinking a 2-1 win right now. So definitely check that out, and I'm going to say I'm going to be able to. All of us, I think we should be able to amend our picks. How about that?
I know I've done
Amend our
it
picks
before.
for Friday.
Yeah,
I know you have.
and it hasn't worked out.
Well, just don't listen to Yosef. I'm 9 points ahead of him, so he's irrelevant in this whole matter.
Of course, I'm not in second on the as far as show host, am I? I don't remember.
Well, when I've almost doubled you up, it's okay.
All right. On
Love
that
you,
note,
Yosef.
if you want to join the Growler Cup for next year, you absolutely can. CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. We're going to be starting something cool next month with our supporters. We're going to be naming them on the air once a month, and then for those who support at the higher levels, we'll be starting to name them each and every show for their contributions. So again, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. That's where you can go and do that. Don't forget, you can rate and review the show on iTunes. Leave us a review and let us know how we're doing. CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/iTunes is where you can find us in the iTunes store. And if you are not an iPhone user or an iPad user, we are on Google Play Store. We're on Stitcher, which is another app you can find on Google or Android, I should say. Basically, anywhere you can find a podcast app like Pocket Cast, Podcast Addict. It's real easy to find Cincinnati Soccer Talk. So make sure you go and get subscribed so you don't miss these episodes of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, plus Brian's March to Match Day, which he does a really good job with those. I think it's time we begin to wrap things up. Your final thoughts? I'll start with you, Yosef Sagai.
Yeah, I guess my final thought would be, again, especially those iTunes reviews. I went back and looked at those nostalgically earlier today after talking to Blake Lane at the match, and we really appreciate everybody listening. And it's always great to see people at the matches. It's kind of a bummer that the season's wound down, and with a little bit of luck, or a lot of luck, we could maybe get a home playoff game. But it's been a great year, and it's been another great season of meeting new people and enjoying FC Cincinnati.
I'm glad you mentioned Blake Lane, the very first iTunes reviewer in the history of Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
Yes, he's very proud of it. In fact, he brought it up that he was the one to support us originally, and it was a very nice note. I appreciated it. It was still there,
Good stuff, Yosef. Glad to have you back, as always, my friend.
Good to be back, man.
And I'm sorry about Liverpool. As he drops his mic. That's a mic drop on accident.
I did call that Burnley draw, by the way, but that's just me being depressed about Liverpool. So
good stuff. Well, speaking of draws, Brad Weigel, Spurs over the weekend. Yikes.
It's amazing how after 3 or 4 years of you guys sucking, all of a sudden all y'all come out of the closet.
There it is.
And start doing well. Oh my gosh, man, whatever.
Can we just drop him from the show?
What the hell did I do wrong? I'm not the one who did it. Hey, when Spurs stop outperforming the other team on the field, I'll start to get worried, okay? They're gonna be fine. But talking about being fine, about damn time FC Cincinnati played well. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see it, and I just hope these guys keep it up. I've definitely been worried about him as of late, but it was great to see a good performance. But I'm still looking for more. I'm looking for another great performance, and hope the guys can do it. Because if they can, start to get some performances here on the road, which is what they're going to need to do, if when they get into the playoffs, if they're going to win this thing, and they need to put some good performances in. So I'm looking forward to see what they do here.
Good stuff, Brad. As always, appreciate your efforts. We're just keeping track of the curse words, and they aren't really curse words.
All I said was damn.
As I say, I don't think I have to necessarily bleep anything out this week. You did good, man.
Thanks, man.
And last but not least, the one and only Brian Weigel. Brian, your final thoughts?
Who's jacked up for Tuesday night's U.S. Women's National Team match? We are definitely at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We have some stories coming out. Check them out. We have Stephanie Yang giving us a Q&A. She's the co-manager of SB Nation blog, Stars and Stripes FC. That'll be coming out Monday. Please go check that out. We'll also be doing a special 5 things as well as covering the match. So check it out. Keep following us at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We got a lot of things coming down the pipe. Also, if you're wanting to get involved with Cincinnati Soccer Talk, let us know. We're always looking for new people, and especially if we make some moves here going into MLS, we're going to need more people to help with the coverage. So check it out, get involved, and let's keep supporting FC Cincinnati.
Good stuff, Bri. As always, yeah, I agree. If you want to get involved and you want to write about FC Cincinnati, hit us up via email, feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com. Could always use some additional hands. Brian and the guys here at CST do a fantastic job. It's remarkable the things that they're able to churn out as quickly as they do. But yeah, my final thoughts, again, really pumped for FC Cincinnati. Really proud of the team averaging over 21,000 for attendance this year. That is a new USL record. They smashed another USL record over the weekend, 30,000 people there in attendance for the home finale. I don't know what it is about these home finales that they set records, but it's 2 years in a row. The last home game has been a USL record breaker. So kudos to Jeff Smith and the ticketing staff over at FC Cincinnati. They do a tremendous job, and they should pat themselves on the back because they had a whale of a year. There's no question about it. All right, it's time to get out of here. Episode 83 in the books. Our thanks to Pat Brennan from Cincinnati Enquirer joining us this week. My thanks to Ken Hetker for screening the phone calls as well. Brad Weigel, Brian Weigel, and Joseph Sagai. For those guys, we say sayonara. I'm Subs, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will catch up with you next week.
I couldn't hear the sound of you guys talking over the kissing of the ass Cincinnati right there.
What the did you just say?
Just